Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Today, Bridget Griffin shared a video of her daily yoga routine, 2 self-help articles, and her new blog called Build Your Inner Bridge with Bridge. Girl, your sharing has turned into oversharing. No worries, Bridge. Geico has some info worth sharing with your 7 blog followers, like how you could save money on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim just by visiting geico.com. How's that for building your inner bridge? Bridge? Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Hello.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello. Another version of Hot Laps with Stats. My name is Mike Perricone. We got an interesting show this evening. 3 guests. In the first hour, we have Rick Swanson and Tommy Ferrara from the 11X Figure 8 team at Riverhead, and we're talking to them. And then in the second hour, we have Roger Oxee, the late model driver from Riverhead and Long Island. And if you're a fan of racing on Long Island, you know who Roger is. My producer, of course, as always, CJ. How you doing tonight?
Not too bad. I do apologize on the delay. My phone died right before the show, so I had to wait for it got enough of a charge to get it back on so we get things going. But I want to thank the guests for joining us tonight, all the listeners and fans out there. Got to thank you all. Make sure you guys check us out on Facebook, 110 Nation Sports. Also check us out on Twitter, @110 Nation.
Okay. I think we got our first 2, or at least one guest text me that he's in the studio.
I got 2 people in the studio for you.
Okay. All right. Tommy Ferrara and Rick Swanson. How you guys doing?
Hi, Mike. You got me. I'm here. Rick?
How you doing, Rick?
I'm here.
Tommy,
Tom.
okay.
You got me?
How's it going? Okay.
Good.
Let's start with Tommy for a second. Just give fans an idea of what you're going to be doing this season, how many races, how many weeks the figure 8s are running, and so forth.
We started out, I think, with 13 shows. We lost one to a rain out, so we're down to 12. Hopefully, with good car count, which Ricky and I are actually doing right now, is putting a motor in another car so we can get it out there for tomorrow night to hopefully get us some more shows.
Yep. And Rick, as far as that second car, tell fans what happened last year. You had 2 cars going in, and then you lost. Well, not lost. You lost a motor, and the second car never really got going last year.
Yeah, well, that's Tom Kraft Jr.'s car, and that's actually the one we're working on right now.
Right.
We just finished taking the bad motor out of it, and we're in the process of putting another motor in for tomorrow night. We're actually at the garage right now, in the middle of it.
Okay. All right, Tommy, last year, as I recall, you ended up getting on some kind of a streak you were doing like 1 victory a month, and hopefully you do close to the same thing again or better. How's the first car running? What would be considered the first car?
Yeah, the car's been running great. We only had 1 race so far. We had a lot of rain. We started out winning the heat race, and then started on the pole in the feature, and then driver error, finished 5th in the feature. So can't always do well all the time.
Everybody lost to weather in the East. So hopefully that's over with, or at least for this week.
Hopefully.
I try to educate the fans and our producer even. A situation came up early for both of you guys to answer earlier in the week. Do you find figure 8 racing more dangerous because you have to cross at the X, or is it the same? Is it the same level I don't want to say fear, but problematic as just an oval race. Because CJ was saying to me earlier in the week that he thinks it's more dangerous having to cross like that.
They definitely have a lot more of a dangerous situation. You're not just crossing once; it's twice per lap, and one side is the passenger side, and the other side is the driver's side. And, you got to be able to trust your competitors and know that they're going to do the right thing. And sometimes it doesn't always work out. So being with the oval, you don't have to deal with that. And with the figure eight, not only you turning left, you got to turn right. Well, you can ask some previous years. We've had a couple of guys in the Super Pro trucks and the Chargers come over and help out, and jump into a figure eight car thinking they're going to drive, and they all got out of the car and said, "This is intense and insane."
Right. There's a lot more braking. Is it more like a road type of deal as far as the braking and the amount of time you have to apply the brake, or?
Yeah, braking is about. As far as the oval, it's a gradual turn. In the figure eight, it's a sharper turn, and believe it or not, the turns are probably a touch longer. Because you're in the turns a lot, and as far as braking, it really depends on your handling of the car.
Right. I had mentioned that from what I've seen, obviously everybody likes to lead, but if you are leading, you're in a good spot. But then what happens is you end up, if you're that much faster than everybody else, you end up at the back, or not the back of the pack, but you end up getting caught in somebody who might not be as fast if you're coming around first. How do you handle that, Tommy?
You'll know the cars. You judge them out in practice. Who's fast and who's not, or who's handling good and who's not, and you try to just you got to judge that intersection just the right way so you don't lose ground on your second and third place car. And if it's tight racing, you got to try and slow them down in the corner. So when you run through the intersection, you're not lifting. One thing you don't want to do is lift when everybody else is on the throttle. And then you lose a lot of ground, and you can lose your own lose the lead very quickly. Very quickly.
Right. Okay. As far as your main competition, who do you see as being the main competition in the division?
Everybody in that division is good. There's a couple of newcomers. There's a couple of rookies. Even Tom Kraft Jr. He did very well last week in the heat race until he broke a brake line and then eventually lost oil pressure. But you got a good running car and you can stay out of trouble. You take the lead. You could run away with it.
Okay. As far as being next to somebody, is it a little bit different in the figure eight course being next to somebody and alongside rather than the oval also, because you have less of I want to say less asphalt area in the figure eight course. Do you get caught up with I know some drivers get caught up with cones and end up hitting cones and so forth. Is it tougher to pass on the figure eight course?
Yeah, in the figure eight course, one corner you're on the inside, and the next corner you could be on the outside. So if you set a guy up on the outside, the next corner you got him on the inside, and the inside is the shorter way around the corner. So depending on your car's handling characteristics, it could be to your benefit and or disadvantage. And the cones, we haven't had the cones. The track decided not to put the cones out for the first race. And that just helps keep the drivers from cutting the corner too much. But as far as the asphalt, the whole track is asphalt. We just go into the infield, which is all paved. But there's one corner that is totally asphalt, and one corner, on the inside, it's dirt. And the one corner with the asphalt, you could cut that corner, and myself and other fellow competitors, Mike Muse, used that to an advantage, and eventually they had to put a cone on that corner as well because, you cut that corner, you can definitely gain some ground.
Well, you learn from Mike, I guess, so, you know. As far as the competing as what's the largest amount of laps? I know the regular one is like 12 or 15 laps.
Yeah, we run a 15-lap feature, but it's 30 intersections. So a lot of people are like, it's only 15 laps, but that's 2 times per lap in the intersection, and once you really get going, that's 2 times per lap. So to me, it's a 30 crosses through the intersection. On a normal Saturday night. We don't have any extra distance races this year, at least not yet. We're hoping that if they add a race, it'll be, maybe a 20-lapper. But 15 laps, believe it or not, is plenty. That's 30 intersections, and once it gets going, 30 close calls is good enough for me.
What's the okay, from a driving standpoint, what's the easiest, or not the easiest, it's never easy, the farthest back you could start with the best chance of making it to the front? I mean, without anybody wrecking in front, the whole field wrecking in front of you or whatever.
I've won from the pole. I've won from 7th. I've won from 9th. I mean, you can start last and just mind your business and keep your nose clean, and halfway through the race, you get a couple of cars get tangled up or get messed up with the intersection, and you could be leading. So pretty much, you don't have to have the best car, just got to be in the right spot at the right time, and as always, what they say, luck.
Yep.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Rick, I mentioned in the publicity, and you and PK Kraft also are good with the history of the figure 8 racing. Tell the fans a little bit about how figure 8 started on Long Island, at least. I think it was Larry Mendelsohn that started it at Islip, correct?
Yes, I believe Larry started it. There's discrepancy whether it started at the track in Indiana before it started on Long Island, but each track says that they started first, so it's but it started even long before me.
Right.
I was like in the second generation of figure 8 cars where we had late model bodies. For many years, everybody ran 55, 54 Ford, Chevys, Plymouths, and earlier.
Yeah. And you run the Mustang for years.
I my first car was a 54 5.6 Ford, and then I only ran that the 1 year in '77 and crashed it, and on championship day, and then I built the Mustang over the year in '78 and came out with it in '79, and I ran that up until '81. But you mentioned about being able to come from the back to the front. On championship days, one of the championship days, I believe 1980, I started 33rd and finished 6th. So you can definitely go from the back to the front. And one of the championship days, Conce's, I think I started like 28th and finished 2nd. So you can do it. It happens. And,
that brings up an interesting point too with the World Championship races that were on for years and on TV on Wide World of Sports. What was the largest? Do you have any idea off the top of your head the largest field that ever showed up? Because that's when the guys came in from other states and out of town. How many cars showed up? And do you remember the maximum amount of cars that showed up in one particular year?
There had to have been 60, 70 cars at least. We had almost that many cars right at Islip, and it was very hard to qualify championship day because they took any track champion was a guaranteed spot, any former world champion was a guaranteed spot. So out of the 33 cars they started, I would say over 20, 23 were all guaranteed starters.
Mm-hmm.
Tom just said there was only 13 spots available for qualifying.
Okay. So
out of 100 and something cars total.
Right. So they sent like 70 people home.
Yeah.
But what's your opinion? Both of you can answer this. Why do you feel the figure eights were so popular for years and years, and then they just dropped off, very, very noticeably? Was it just money or economy or what?
It's a big combination. First of all, back then there were only two divisions. You mainly had modified and figure eight. And then they added more and more different divisions, so people ended up, it's almost like you look at what happened this year. This year they combined the late models and chargers. They now have a field, a division with a good field of cars, because they took two small fields and combined them into one. Well, it was the exact opposite. They took two main divisions at Islip and then added a novice division, eventually street stock. They added more divisions. And then it's the economy, it's the availability of getting cars, numerous things.
Okay, for both of you, how did you get started? Were you in go-karts as a kid, or how did you get started in racing?
Well, I started going to Freeport in the late 50s, early 60s with my grandfather. And after we moved to Long Island in 1966, I believe it was around 1971, I started going to Islip. And I went full-time in Islip probably 71, 72. I actually would go out every week with a friend of mine called Stephen Bauer. He, like I was, we were both fans of Jimi Hendrickson, and he knew the Ferrentis personally, which worked out really. I had a lot of fun with that, because after the races every week, I go on the pits and hang out by them, and I actually got to go with them to the diner every week with Jimmy, Tony Ferrenti. We go, they took me to the diner with them, and they had the Jimi Hendrickson fan club, and I did that. And in 73, 74, I started hanging out and getting interested in the figure eights, and I started hanging out by Ernie Maynard after the races. And eventually Ernie had me go over by his house, and I got to help him with his car. And it slowly progressed where I loaded his car on the trailer and unloaded it every week, did all the tires on it. All my basic setup stuff that I learned was all through Ernie. It was all real basic methods of doing it that worked. And I did that up until the point that one week Ernie said, you can buy a car. I'd get you a deal on the number 2. It was $600 for the number 2 or $850 for the number 3, which were Jerry Bowers, Mike Pinchuk cars. And I was able to buy the number 2, and I came out with that in 77. And that was when it all started. And then
I remember
77, 78.
Yep.
I was by myself, and then I got hooked together with Tommy. And we became a team, and we stayed that way for all these years. Right.
Well, Tommy Ferrara, you started with Mike Muse, right? Or did you run this?
I started for myself in '95 every couple of years then, but
you also ran yourself a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Then I took off for a while, and then I started again with Bill Farrell had me drive his number 16 figure 8 for 4 years, and then I got my first win in '07 driving for Ken Sergio and Denise Sergio. There was 2 cars. We had the 00 and the 0, and then I with the tutelage of my uncle Tom Kraft, who was a 3-time champion, who Ricky just mentioned, who's been with Ricky for many years. And he's the one who really got me started and got me hooked up with Mike Muse, and that's pretty much when my career started to thrive, and competing for championships and winning multiple times for a season, and that's pretty much where I am today.
Right. Well, I mentioned this when we had Tracy on. Your whole group really came through other people, like yourself always ran, Rick ran, and so forth, and just the idea of having like TK around and all these people that race figure eight cars, just the knowledge alone has got to give you a step up on some people,
Well, I give credit to Ricky with the knowledge because I just drive. He's the setup guru. I can turn a wrench, but it's pretty much, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? And and he's there to make sure we do it right. So I give him all the credit for that.
I would suspect it's a lot easier just strapping in and driving every week than having to worry about all the other aspects when you own the car, right?
It's definitely easy to drive, but it's only easy because you have a guy like Ricky setting it up. If you,
right.
If you don't have a set, I've driven a car without a setup, and it's not fun, and you look like you have no clue out there, and it can tell, it can be seen from the stands, like, wow, that guy's out to lunch, or that guy's fast, he's got a setup under him, and Ricky's got a good eye on the setup, and I can come in and tell him, hey, I'm tight here, I'm loose here, this is not feeling right, and he'll know pretty much what he needs to do.
Right. Well, we've said it many times that racing was a family affair, and you guys have all come from, whether it be the Krafts or you getting involved. Does any other member of your family get involved in it as well?
Pretty much my whole family. Freddie Kraft is a spotter on Greg Biffle's Sprint Cup team. My cousin Tom Kraft Jr. is out there, and even though he drives us crazy, we're still helping him out, getting his car out there. And of course, sometimes racing with family is difficult because this afternoon Uncle Tom and I are having a little argument, but it's forgotten about 10 minutes later, and we're laughing it off. So sometimes it's good, and then sometimes it's it's bad. But racing with family, that's what's going to happen. But we're able to just forget about it, move on, and go from there. So, but I mean, I race for other teams, and when it's family, it's different. You can get away with things with each other and say things and stuff. So it happens. Right. And even though Ricky's not blood, he's still part of our family. I've known him since I've been in diapers, and Tom Kraft Jr. same thing. So he's definitely part of our family.
My side, as far as family, no. Nobody had any interest. I had been racing for years and years and years before my sister even came out to the track to watch me, and that was in '87. And the night she came out was the night I had a bad crash. I was parked at the exit and got hit by Joe Saracino. Knocked me out. I was knocked out for a couple seconds, and so the first time she ever went to the track kind of scared her. But, she's gone a couple times since then. She was actually there the night we won our last championship together. They were there, which was good. For the final race of the season when we won the championship, she was there. And interesting point, they were there to watch us take the motor apart when we got checked after the feature that night. And the motor that we took apart that night is the motor that I'm putting in the number 10 car right now. That motor's still out there, McVet's motor, and it's still our good backup.
Hopefully you'll have some luck for Tommy then tomorrow night.
Yeah, but, hopefully we should be good.
But as far as family, that's an interesting thing. Has your family, Tommy, been there when you won? Your biological family, I guess you'd call it. Been there when you won like a win. Like last year, the times you won. Does your wife come out at all? Or your kids?
No, my wife doesn't come out much. She's more, it's more of a worry ward. She doesn't, she's like, I'm not going to come watch because I don't watch as it is. But she was there with my mom and dad when I won my first race in '07. And I actually had the luck of my uncle was leading Tommy Kraft, and he had a issue, and I was second when he had his issue, and I was able to take the win. And, my mom and dad, my wife were there. My wife's gone every now and then. My dad comes a lot. My dad's been there for 2 of my wins, or 3 of my wins, I believe. But the kids are too young. They're not into it yet. And my daughter's now, she'll be 13. She's definitely not into racing, which is fine.
Okay, so you don't have the thing of, okay, oh, Dad, get me a go-kart, this, that. They're not into it at all.
No, I said to my son, who's 9, Thomas, I asked if he wanted to get into it. He's like, no, not really. He wants to play soccer. He's going to be he's already a first-degree black belt in karate. So he's got other things going on. And my little guy Anthony, he's only 5. He's into Star Wars and video games. He's racing is not in. So. All
right. I can remember like going back to when I first became a fan. My dad used to bring me to Islip Speedway, and then obviously I wasn't riding at the time. I was like 10 years old. But after college, when I got my journalism degree, I decided to combine the 2 interests, and that's how I got writing about motorsports, and specifically Bobby Pearson got me started. The modified driver, and so that's how I started. And I was just wondering, like, now you mentioned Freddie Kraft. I know a lot of the guys from Islip that, Rick, I think you raced with Tommy Ryan, correct?
I raced with Tommy a number of times. There's actually pictures on one of my Facebook albums where I'm in Freddie Dunlap's number 7, and Tommy Ryan is sitting next to me in the Nova for a heat race at Islip.
I saw that picture. And the point being that how many of the drivers that you guys know, offhand, I'm trying to count now, Freddie Kraft being spotter and so forth. I know Tommy works for Hendrick Motorsports as a fabricator. How many people have moved down there that were originally at Islip and so forth? And what are they, like, for instance, guys like Joe Saraceno, we get into the history of it. Rick, what are those guys doing, the ones that are still around?
Oh, there's a number of them that went down. Carl Miller, for years, he ran his own modified. Plus, he was on the crew with Freddie Harback. He's a spotter.
Freddie Harback, right?
Carl Miller spots down there for somebody.
Eddie DeHunt.
Who else?
Eddie DeHunt's a spotter for
Eddie DeHunt.
Chase Elliott.
Yep, Eddie DeHunt is from here.
Bobby Sater is a fabricator, I think, for Roush, maybe?
Yeah, what's his name is also down there that had the shop over off Edison Avenue. Ray Thies. Ray Thies is down there. He works with somebody down there. He ran it.
I know a lot of people went down, and I know Bobby went down. Bobby Pearson went down and became an owner. I don't know if he drove down there at all, but he ended up buying a modified or having a modified down there and was running, I think, Ace Speedway, and CJ knows because he's in North Carolina. He was running Ace Speedway and Bowman Gray were 2 of the tracks that he ran down there. And he just recently sold, the last I talked to him, he was trying to sell the mod. So I think he's out of it now. He's just a fan. But he went down there initially and had the Suttons in his car, I believe. James Sutton. driving his car.
Yeah.
So,
even some of the younger guys, like Russell Simpson and Brian Simpson, they're younger guys from Riverhead. They're Russell's a tire specialist for Tony Stewart at the Haas team, and his brother is on I guess it'd be an Xfinity team doing tires as well. So I mean, even the younger guys can go down and be part of a real Sprint Cup or Xfinity team.
Yeah,
I also believe John Zell Jr., I think, either works on cars or drives down there too in a car. He's had pictures online.
Yes, he's running a legend car. Just within the last maybe 2 years, he bought himself a legend and, moved down there and was down there and bought himself a legend when he was down there. And I asked him one time if he ever came back up to run like a qualifying race or on Long Island. At the time, I don't think he was doing it. Maybe this year, I don't know. I'll have to ask him. We're in touch periodically. I'll have to ask him if he's going to come up because I know the legend guys, especially. I'm going to have later on in the season a gentleman or kid by the name of Eddie Fatchler who runs Riverhead. I don't know if he's running his legend. I guess now he is. The reason I didn't know about him as much is I was never out there during when they were running the go-karts on Sunday, only because the little buses don't run on Sunday, and so I couldn't get out there. I was there every Saturday night, but Eddie is from Long Island and also runs as far south as North and South Carolina. Within the last month, he went down to Anderson, South Carolina to run a qualifying race for the legend. So I know to answer, to back up what you said, John Zell does run a legend in North Carolina and South Carolina, and he has Stephen Baldwin up doing team. I don't know if he's a crew chief or, but I know Steve's chief for him. If he's not the crew chief, then he's at least working on the car with him. So a lot of people have gone down, and of course the one everybody's familiar with because he Sprint Cup owner was Tommy Jr. So a lot of people that started on either Islip or Riverhead, or maybe even, I don't know if there's anybody at this stage of the game that ran Freeport at this point, but I know there are a few that ran, like I said, that started on Long Island running at Islip and Riverhead. At the two tracks. Okay, Nick, because you're the crew chief on the car, you say you were in the shop tonight. Tell us what a normal week is like for you, in terms of, from the time you bring the car back, I guess on Saturday night, what you do each week to get the car ready, and of course, if you're running in a given week, it's a little different than if you're, if the division is not running a race that week, it obviously is different. But what is a race week like for you?
Well, I'm a bad person to ask for that because what we usually do is if we don't hurt the car on Saturday night, it comes home, it gets put away in the garage, and it sits there until next Saturday. We basically don't do anything with it unless it got damaged. Every now and then we'll go over a couple things, but I'm not one for spending a lot of time in the garage if I don't have to. And it works. We've won 3 championships doing it that way in many seconds, and we haven't had any failure with the car due to not doing something to it, or very little minimal failure. So, and we have a lot more nights that we're able to do what we want instead of spending them in the garage. You know, tonight we're in the garage because we got to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're in here tonight. Tomorrow we'll have the car at the track. So, but a normal week to week, we don't do anything to the car other than if it has to be done.
Right. That's where your division is a little bit different than, say, modifieds or anything that might run like a tour race or something like that. You guys are generally running Riverhead, period. So if you're set up for Riverhead, you don't really have to change anything, like you say, unless there's, you know, damage to the car in some way.
Well, there again, it's funny because we a few years ago, 98, I think it was 98. After we won the championship at Riverhead in 98, we decided to go to White Lake to run their open competition race, which was anything with a roll cage and seatbelts, you could race it, any kind of race car. And the only thing we changed on the car is we changed the camber on the left front wheel. That's it, and then reset the towing. We didn't do anything. We didn't move weights. We didn't do nothing. And Tommy, I think, ran 100 laps and finished fourth. And that was against asphalt modifieds, dirt modifieds, late models, Chargers, blunderbuss, other figure eight cars. And we did nothing. We didn't change anything as far as setup on the car.
How would you guys run? I mean, obviously you did it, but how would you run against a modified that's so much more horsepower, it seems? Or is a figure eight car that you know, not that much different? It's just that the modifieds always seem to mention their horsepower. You know, 600 horsepower, whatever.
They were stronger in the straightaways, but Tommy would get up and be able to give them a little bump in the turns, and it would send them all high. And and they all seemed to wreck themselves. Luckily, the few fast modifieds that were out there all wrecked themselves.
Yeah. No, you know, when you said turning, that makes sense because obviously the figure eight guys were used to that, and of course Tommy. So yeah, you that would be the strong point for the figure eight guys. Would be the turning, obviously, and then like you said, the straightaways you kind of lose a little bit of ground. But that's interesting. I never knew they did that.
Yeah, look.
I know.
If you look on my YouTube page, which is Figure Eight Racer, all one word, FIGURE there's videos from our weekend that we went up to White Lake there, and he was running against any kind of race car possible. He ran against. But you're talking Tommy here. That's one of the big things. Is Tommy? He won the heat. And pretty much anywhere we've gone, you know, we went down to Dorsey and we ran a figure eight race on dirt in Dorsey, which was kind of like insanity. And we blew the motor in practice, and we took a stock motor that one of their drivers had, and we took it apart in the pits, put our cam and head on it, and Tommy went out with that and won the heat with it. You know, and they went one week. They went up to Riverside Park, and he ran really good up there too. I wasn't there that week, but he shocked everybody with the 6-cylinder up there running against V8. So you know, the quality of our little team is pretty over the top when you look at what's here. We've always had good luck everywhere we went, and Tommy can basically get in anything and drive it.
That's what I was saying with you guys. You have a pretty solid team from top to bottom. You know, owner down to driver, down to everybody, down to crew. Even you have guys like Eddie Cheslack, who generally runs a Legend but helps you guys out. And Eric Say, you know, guys like that help you out in different ways every week, or seemingly every week anyway.
Yeah, Ed Cheslack is my spotter, and he is dynamite on the radio. I mean, he calls things out before I even see it. I mean, he's good. And Eric Zay is great with a jack.
Yeah. We need the pit. We need the help in the pits now because I'm starting to get a little older, and don't run quite as fast as I did. That comes in great help, especially now that we're going to be running heats. The whole scenario now has changed running heats because now you can damage the car in the heat and qualify for the feature, and you have to fix it for the feature. We haven't had to do that in 15 years.
Well, that's an interesting thing. That brings, I have my little scratch notes here. What now? Has there been significant changes for your division? You just answered one of them with Eddie and Connie Partridge taking over. Is that why, basically? Are they tweaking some of the rules when it comes to things like that?
Yeah, rules pretty much stay the same. I mean, as far as the heat race, it's
no, but as
time.
As far as whether they're running heats, or is it just because there is an increase in car count with figure eights this year?
I think
a good thing.
Yeah, I think the increase in car count could be because they're running heats. Used to just like last year, we'd show up early for practice, get our 2 rounds of practice, make our adjustments, and then sit and wait. Now.
Right.
Now it's different. You get there, you got your 2 practices. You better make sure your car's good. You got a heat race, and then you better make sure you survive the heat race, and then you get ready for the feature. I mean, opening night at every division, I don't think we stopped since we got in the gate.
Right.
Eddie is trying to make the racing better, and he's doing a very good job of it because we've kicked around heats for a long time, but they didn't want to do it because we didn't have enough cars for the heats. But you got 10 cars, you can run heats. You can run 2 heats with 5 cars, and you can do handicapping where the slower cars are in the front and the faster cars are in the back, and it makes for much better racing. And it's for the fans.
Right.
You're going to build a fan base up doing that because starting people in the front that are fast and the slow cars in the back is boring. It's not a race. It's just to follow the lead.
Yeah.
And the racing now is going to be much better.
Yeah. I hope to be there more often once I get back, but I just got some business down here. But the interesting thing is, I was wondering about Eddie. There's been a lot of excitement. Obviously, I've been following it with the new ownership and everything, and I was wondering within your division because you touched on it. If there had been any changes, and you answered about the heats and increased car counts and everything. So hopefully that'll continue because I know for years they were hoping for increased car counts and didn't really get them. I don't know if that was. I mean, I don't want to say it was the comedies because they did an excellent job in their own right, but it just seems that things are changing for the better also. Are the Partridges listening to you guys more in terms of driver input, or
absolutely? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Eddie's a racer and he loves racing, and so do the Crommies. I mean, the one thing about the Crommies, they stuck to figure eights. I mean, they love the figure eights, and so does Eddie. And pretty much, it's too early to tell as far as if we need any changes to be made, but we pretty much they're open ears and open arms, and whatever they could do to help us, I'm sure they will. I mean, and people got to remember, just because you go to them today and say we want to change this, it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be some bumps in the roads, and John Elwood, is doing a great job on the track. I mean, Scott Tapley, the new chief steward, he's no nonsense. I mean, it's definitely it's different atmosphere. Cromedies did a great job, but it's totally new atmosphere, and we're excited. It's fun to go to the track, and now knowing that we got to get there and we got to be on our game from practice for heat races. I mean, it's different. For me, it was exhausting the first night. Maybe that's why my driver error came in because we were the last division to run. But it's we got to make sure we're on our game.
Right. That's interesting too in terms of penalties. Are they more stringent about like rough riding penalties and that kind of thing, or would you say that's
from what I'm
seeing?
From what I'm seeing in the other divisions, something goes wrong, driver gets roughs up another driver. From what we're seeing, the guys are going to the back of the pack, no questions asked, no arguments. Pretty cut and dry. We haven't seen anything in the figure eights. We only had one race, and everybody seemed to race each other clean. But the other divisions, it's pretty much cut and dry.
Okay, the other thing that I wanted to mention, because we brought it up briefly, was, Tommy, you going to other tracks with Rick and the team, I guess, or different teams, different years. I know Roger goes out to Indiana a lot, and a lot of the figure eight tracks that, Bob Kleinen will mention almost weekly on Facebook. Are there any long-range plans for you guys to take the car to other states to run a figure eight?
They have figure eights in Florida and in Indiana, but the Tommy he's referring to when he goes away is my uncle Tom Kraft. I've only raced at Riverhead. Yeah, I've only raced at Riverhead. Okay. He's the king of our team.
No, but, I know that Roger does it. Yeah, I know that Roger does it now. That's why I was mentioning. Roger
went to the Endurance, the 3-hour or 5-hour figure eight World Championship in Indiana at the Speedrome. He's gone. He's mostly been down to Florida. For us to travel,
he does that every year. Yeah.
He hasn't done it in a couple of years, but the travel for us now, it's Florida, Indiana. It's a toll. But from talking to Roger Maynard about when he went down to Florida and they had a rain out, the track refunded his money for tires. They invited him back, and he went back. And they treated him, they treated him well. Even when he went to the World Championship, even when he went to the World Championship, he bent something up. One of the guys down there took his car to a shop, welded it up. It's pretty much, we're all, and it pretty much the figure eights from day one. Everyone's there to help each other out. But as soon as the green flag drops, one for all.
Yeah. Are there any plans again, or are they still going to bring the out of state guys in for like a world championship, or was that pretty much just run at Islip or whatever?
I think the last world championship it was at Riverhead, but the world championship tag I believe now is the endurance race in Indiana.
Okay, so that serves as okay.
And their cars are like super late models. Our cars couldn't compete.
Yeah.
But like Ricky said, you get the super late models on the oval, and you can survive, and it's a 5-hour endurance. If you can survive, I don't think you'd win, but maybe a top 10 or something.
Right. It's like almost like a 24-hour race of another type, like a road race or something, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering about that. Whether I know I've seen. I never really asked Roger what's involved. We run at Riverhead every week, and then going out there, what he has to do to make changes to the car to run on dirt, or to run competitively against those guys.
He didn't change too much as far as setup. Figure eight is figure eight. I think he had to change a little gearing, which some of the figure eight cars now have a quick change rear in it. And I think he said he changed a little bit of his motor around, but not nothing. I think it was more like an intake, if that manifold.
This would be for Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Florida, we were able to run down much the way we ran up here. They gave a little stick over the multi-disc 1 year, but
as far as horsepower, would he have to change the motor? Do you know, or as far as to run with the guys that are super.
Well, now
almost like a super like mine.
See, now it wouldn't even pay to attempt it because their cars are just so much further advanced than our cars. They're basically modified chassis with modified motors running a figure eight.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They're nothing like our cars now.
Right.
You know, Roger goes to Indy with a whole separate car. He has a special car for these. Right. He doesn't run his ribhead car.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I know he had told me about that also. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you guys decided to go, it wouldn't be the same thing like you said. You'd have to change everything around and everything. Not everything, maybe, but enough to make it, worthwhile. All right, each of you, if you want to just give a shout out to people, and then tell the fans also where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, just pretty much a shout out to my team, Ricky, Uncle Tom, Little Tom, even though he's not little anymore, even though he's a pain in the butt. I got to thank my sponsors. I mean, I got a lot of sponsors. The main sponsor is he's also a car owner, Grant Williams, Northeast Office Equipment. Need any office equipment anywhere in the country, I believe they'll ship it to you. You can just go to Northeast Office Equipment. I think it's northeastofficeequipment.com. Savin copiers, all that good stuff. We got Zachary Daddy on the car, which is it could be either or, non-alcoholic or alcoholic, like a Slurpee refreshment. He's going to be at the track on this Saturday with his machine, just for free to get people to come down and take a taste. You can rent the machines for parties. We got a lot of hidden sponsors that don't want to be recognized, but they just help us out, hand over the money. The family and the team, and we got Tracy, who hasn't really been contributing too much lately, but we got to get on her for that because she's got to get out there. And then anybody else you want to check out, Rick?
Well, pretty much everybody you mentioned. There's really nobody else to mention. They're all the same sponsors for the cause. I myself, my YouTube is Figure 8 Racer, all spelt out, one word, FIGURE EIGHTRACER, where I have, somewhere around 90 videos on there, and lots more to do. That's about it for me.
And you have the ones from Islip, but you also do the ones weekly. You and I guess Peter Milano are the two race. Well, you guys do it. You do it for Figure 8, but Peter does it for all the divisions. But you video the feature every week for the Figure 8 guys.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time, and I still have a lot going all the way back to about 96 or 97. I have almost every Figure 8 race recorded from then that I still have to convert to digital and get up and online.
Right. I
have one I'm going to be doing soon. It was from New Egypt. I went to New Egypt to run a 50-lap race with the modern stocks at the end of the 81 season. And they rained out. I qualified by winning the Consi, and then the race started and got rained out. The following week we went, and I let Joe Biondololo Jr. take my car out for practice. And I have a video of him running a practice in my car, which I'm going to get up soon.
Very good. Captain, one other thing I wanted to mention. I know you ran with the and the other Figure 8's on Long Island. Did you ever run? Now you mentioned going to New Egypt. Did you ever run the other track? Was it driver when you did it?
Did I ever what? I didn't hear you, Mike.
Did you ever run as a driver? Did you ever run at any other tracks besides Riverhead and besides Islip in terms of figure 8 racing? And figure 8 racing, other divisions and other things. You mentioned
Not in a race, actually. I did go for a few practice laps back with our little car down at Sunshine back in the mid-'80s. And then, like I said, I ran with the modern stocks on the oval at New Egypt with my Mustang figure 8 car.
Right.
But that would be it. Other than that, everything I've done has basically been Islip or Riverhead.
Yeah, Long Island. That's what I remember. That's why I wondered if you ever, ventured off the island and ran at other places. Okay, Tommy and Rick, thank you very much. Appreciate you being on. Good luck tomorrow, and good luck for the rest of the season. And I hope to see you out there before too much longer. I'll be up when I can be. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, CJ. Appreciate the airtime.
Yep. And CJ, any questions before they leave?
Sorry, what was that again?
You got any questions for Rick or Tommy before they leave? I know you.
No, but I do have somebody in the studio from their neck of the woods that was wanting to come on. I don't know if they got a question for him or somebody they know. So I'm going to go ahead and plug them on. And
okay. I'll pop them up and let them tell them who they are.
They're in the studio. They're in the studio now, Mike.
Okay. Who's calling? Who's calling in?
Well, Mike, you got me listening here.
Hello?
Yeah, Mike, can you hear me?
Oh, Roger.
That's right. I've been listening.
Okay. All right, that's what it is. Okay, guys. Thank you, Tommy and Rick. And I think you good luck the rest of the season. And I'll talk to you guys.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my next guest is Roger Oxee. And anybody who's a fan of racing on Long Island knows who Roger is. And I was trying to track down your record, Raj, for since you started, how many years ago at Islip, and prior to that even? How many years have you actually been racing?
Well, this is my 37th season.
Yes, I knew you've been at it quite a while.
Yep, I've definitely been around.
Now, that's what I've been aware of. But have you raced other than late models? Did you come up through divisions? Or
we came up through the street stocks at Riverhead.
Street stocks, yeah. And that was the division you started with, from the street stocks?
Yeah, that was the first race I was ever in. Was actually a combination race of the Grand Am division and the Bombers, which were put together for two races at Riverhead back in the shortened 79 season.
Okay. What? Now I know your team, or you especially, are very fan friendly, and also with the different paint schemes every year. How did you come to? I mean, how do you get the ideas for each of these paint schemes?
Well, actually, how do I get the ideas? Well, just colors I like, and it goes from there. I've always liked the black. I started out with a white car. Actually, I started with a red car, went to a white car, went to a black car, went to a blue car, went to a red car, went to a yellow car, went to a red car, and back to a black car.
Right. This year, now that's the selling point of the car this year, is you went to what was it? Your original paint job? Is that what it is?
No, it was a retro look from the early to middle '90s.
Okay.
And that's a color scheme that I really liked, and I wanted to do it again for my last season.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's I didn't know what year it was exactly. I didn't remember. You know, I'm sure you wrote it down, but you posted it, but I wasn't sure what year. I know going
that
back
color,
to the black.
That color scheme, I believe, is from 1993.
Right. I know, like, when you picked up IGA as a sponsor, that's where the red came from, because it's their color, the red and the white.
Actually, that's not true. I was red. I was red before I got IGA.
Okay. When I saw the car, I just figured, you know, with IGA on it, I just figured that was because of their sponsorship. I guess.
No, it just worked out that way.
It just worked out that way. What is your overall record? Do you know it offhand, or I was trying to look it up earlier today, and
well, let's see. I have 64 feature wins, one championship, and a whole lot of finishing second.
Now that's an interesting thing too. I would think you had more than one. You know, you're the second person that said they only have one championship, and I was surprised by it. I forget who the other person was, but they win rather regularly, as you have in the past, week to week, and I was kind of surprised that they only had one seasonal championship to show for the wins.
One season. Couple of seasons I had 5 wins, and I didn't win a championship. It just,
right.
Things happen. Wrecks happen, DNFs happen, stupid stuff happens, and it's you got to have the luck to go with it.
Cheap parts breaking an expensive car. I've seen that happen. You know.
It happens all the time, unfortunately.
Okay. What would you? Now, as far as being in the field and being on the grid, I've asked this to a couple of people in terms of where they finish now. I know at Islip, Bruce Edwards in the street, I guess at that time it was called Street Stocks, used to start from the back of the field because of his because he had the stronger car, and invariably I remember him coming right through the pack and winning pretty consistently. Where are you when you start in the field? Are you obviously starting? I would think on the pole would be most comfortable, but from assuming you have to start back in the pack, what's the farthest back you could start and feel comfortable knowing you can get up through the field?
It depends on the length of the race, but I have started last many a time and won the race.
Okay, so you have come from the back. I know I've seen you come from the pack, but I wasn't sure if you ever started dead last and won.
Sure have. Yes, I have.
Okay. What would you say was your best year as far as number of wins and just overall success?
Now, besides winning a championship in 2005, right. I go back to like a 1990. Where are we? 1996 was 5 wins, but my favorite race was probably 2001, when I had to start dead last because of a supposed penalty of having soft tires. I was fined and started last. I had to start last for 3 weeks. We had a time trial show for a 50-lapper. I set fast time. They went all over my tires, and everything was fine. But I set fast time. Still had to start dead last, and came through the pack and won the race.
Very good.
But I didn't get a chance to celebrate because I was sick. I went from victory lane into an ambulance and into the hospital.
Wow.
And while I was sitting there with 2 IVs in me, my crew was having a great old time celebrating the win, and I was sitting in the emergency room. So that was a fun time.
Well, yeah, really. I didn't really realize that. What year was that? What year was that?
That was 2001.
Okay, so that was back some.
Everything, Mike, everything is back some when you race for 37 years.
Yeah, 7 years, right, exactly. No, but I didn't realize you went. Well, I don't think at the time I realized you were, ill and leaving in an ambulance. That's my point.
Yeah, well, I had a strep throat. I had an irregular heartbeat. I was dehydrated. All kinds of fun stuff. But
yeah. All race related, or were you sick?
No,
before?
I was sick. I was sick before I got to the track, and it just got sicker by racing in the heat.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. But as far as when you're out there now, who would you say is your main competition as far as toughest person to get around to pass?
There's a lot more than one. You got a lot of tough competitors in the late models.
Right.
You can you throw names around like Buzzy Erickson, Scott Kalesa, Mike Bologna. There's a lot of good cars out there, a lot of good drivers, and they're all tough.
Yeah, well, for the fans, because we do have a national following. The thing about Scott Kalesa that's interesting is he comes in from Massachusetts every week. I think he does that every week, right, Roger? He doesn't stay on the island, during the week at all. He just flies in every week.
Well, I don't stay on. He rides down every week, and just like I do, I'm not on the island during the week.
Right. No, but I mean in terms of, you do it also, but as far as from another state or things like that, not the island.
He comes down from Massachusetts, and I come down from upstate New York.
Right. So that you do that every week, obviously. But in terms of what do you do? Have you fly down or commuter plane or what?
No, I drive down every. I drive down every week. It's 150 miles each way. No big deal.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
it's like practicing for a race.
So where do you keep the car? Do you keep the car stored on the island somewhere?
No, I have a home on the island in Peconic, and I have my shop here. All my guys are all local, and everything is. The only thing that's not on the island all the time is me, but everything else is here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I kind of thought you had your shop there and everything, and the only thing that was moving around was you.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Now, your guys, how many? Now, have you had the same crew for as long as you can remember? Or?
No, I've had at least one consistent guy for the last 21 years. So
okay.
We've had other guys come and go, but we've had the same basic group for quite a while now. And one of the names you mentioned earlier is in that group too. Bruce Edwards is now a part of this team and has been for a couple of years now.
Oh, very good. Very good. Yeah.
Bruce hangs out with us, works with us, and Todd Berger has been with me the longest. He used to be with Ed Denseski back in the day, and when Eddie got out of racing, his crew came over to me, and that's where it really started to come all together.
Right. As far as like overall, well, we touched on overall record, but now what do you do every week? Now I had asked Tommy and Rick this, and with the figure eights, they just run, basically the same setup. What do you do to the car each week, assuming you don't wreck, obviously? What do you do to the car each week in terms of setup? Do you change anything, or do you try and change anything?
No, once you find what you're happy with, you stay with it, and you scale the car every week and measure this, measure that, make sure everything is the same and the angles are the same, the percentages are the same, and that's your starting point every week.
Right. As far as because that's basically with the late models too. You guys only run. I don't know. Do you take the car out of state at times, or do you run other tracks?
Sure. We've run many different places. We run Wall Stadium. We've run at Mountain Speedway, which is now Evergreen. We've run at Thompson. We ran at Flemington before. Well, it was still around. I've run up at Hudson in New Hampshire. We've gotten around a couple of times.
Okay, now that brings up a point, because I know the legends run all over. When you run at Wall or different stadiums, Wall Stadium or Thompson or other racetracks, do you have to change the car significantly or a little bit, or
no?
Is there late model rules basically the same, or do you have to
all the tracks have each track has a few different rules, but the cars are basically the same. You adjust your cars, the different length of the track, so your gearing is different. You change your springs for either a more banked track like a Wall or a flatter track like at Evergreen. So you do have to play around. Some of your stagger's different, depending on the sweep of the turns and how tight the track is, and so on and so forth. But yeah, every track is different, and you have to adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Okay. As far as seasonally, you mentioned the most success you had. What would be your a season where you felt you really slumped or had an off year?
I've had an off year the last couple of years.
Right.
I've had stuff happen. Nothing is a guarantee when you race. And if I said to you, yeah, I should have won 3 races last year, I was in the position to win 3 races last year, and things happen. So mostly something breaking or having a problem like that, or a flat tire. Just things do happen. We had a lull for a couple of years last year. Thanks to Jared Hayes, got the car running really good, and some years before that, Greg Kalila stepped in and picked up my program when it was dragging. We had probably the worst season was probably around 2010, 2011, and then it started picking up again, winning 3 races here, 2 races here, and but the last couple of years we've come up with a goose egg, because just having some bad luck, and just like when we had opening night a couple of weeks ago, was in the lead and had something happen, had some contact and got spun, but it just happens. That was nothing deliberate, and it's just a matter of luck. Unfortunately, you can have the best car out there and you can be the best driver, and if you don't have the luck, you don't win.
Yep, and there's also luck involved to a degree, but as far as that, there seems to be a lot of respect in your division except for, one instance that I can think of that one of the drivers had a really hard time one year. But do you basically get along with everybody within the division, and are they helpful, especially in view of your record?
I get along with most of the guys in my division. I've had some run-ins with. I'll put it this way: we've had some issues in the past. Nothing terrible, but you can't get along with everybody. Once you can have plenty of friends in the pits, but once you get on the racetrack, it's every man for himself. And again, on a very tight track, there's always going to be a problem.
Right.
It's the nature of the beast. But again, I've had run-ins with drivers, and they've had run-ins with me, and that just happens because it's close quarters out there, and things happen, and you're not in the heat of the moment. You're not happy about it. So.
Right. I was just wondering because of the fact that because you have won so much, and you are a known entity as far as being competitive. More people would shoot for you in that regard, and that seems to be an issue at times, where you're more or less of a marked man. Now, lately, like you say, unfortunately for you, the last couple of seasons, maybe things have cooled down, but I know from being around it for a long time that, the first person that you thought of, probably within the last 5 years or so, the two people, when you said late model, people around Riverhead would say Jeremy McDermott and you, And then, like you say, recently, things cooled down for you. But usually those people that are, at the top of the division are like marked men, so to speak, Well,
you've got a lot of good competitors in the division, and it's just not me or Jeremy. There's a lot more than that, and you've got, like I said, the top guys out there are the guys that show up every week, and you've got your, as like I said, you've got your Jeremys, you've got your Kevin Metzgers,
right.
Scott Kalesa, like I said,
yes, yeah,
Chris Laspisa. You've got a lot of cars that can win on any given night. It just depends on the circumstances on the track.
Right. And then you have guys that come out really later in the season, and you've always, that's another thing, you always have your car ready for opening night, and there are guys within some of the divisions that come out like starting in June or July, just because of different circumstances,
We got guys that have cars that haven't come out for years. They sit home, and I don't know why. I understand the financial burdens of it, but why have a race car sitting in the garage if you're not going to at least try and race it?
Yeah, that was, I could understand like different situations and money, of course, but it seems like if you had all winter to get your sponsorships together, I'm telling you this, but you've always done this, like you say, why wait until being in season to get, it's one thing to get additional sponsorship, but make sure you have enough sponsorship to at least get out there, when the season starts.
I've been very fortunate with acquiring sponsors, and the ones that I have been with me a long time, and they stay around, and which has been very good for me. Otherwise, I'd be sitting in the stands watching too. But again, we start getting our car. This is the last season, but what we normally would do, we start as soon as Riverhead's over or we're done racing, we start working on the car for next year, and immediately starts coming apart, and we start basically all over again, going through the whole car.
And you totally rebuild it?
Well, this particular year, we took it down to nothing. Had the car sandblasted. We repainted everything. The car's got all brand new parts, brand new motor, brand new everything. I wanted to give my last season the best shot I could. At least I didn't want to have an excuse of a mechanical problem. So it comes down to now if it's either my driving or lack of driving or just luck on the racetrack. But I didn't want any I didn't want any mechanical excuses. So I spent money I didn't have, and we basically built a brand new race car.
Okay. That brings up a point too. This being your last year, supposedly.
Not supposedly.
We'll say it is.
Not
supposedly. Right. Okay. There's been a lot of back and forth the last couple of seasons. I know Bob Finance kid you about it.
Well,
but,
it's my own fault because I've cried wolf before, saying that was it. But this time, I've made a promise to my wife, to myself, and to my kids that this is really it. So this is my last shot. I'm going to give it everything I got, and I could win every single race now and walk away the champion, and I'd still retire.
Okay, well, that's, it's good to go out on top, so.
Well, that's the game plan. To make that happen, no. Everything's going to have to fall into place, and chances of that happening are pretty small, but, that's the plan.
You never know, right?
That's it.
Like I mentioned earlier, you're one of the people who are particularly fan-friendly. You and a couple of other people, like off the top of my head, Mike Van Houten, people like that. And I was wondering if you would, being your last year, you said you wanted to give it your last shot. Are you doing anything special in terms of fan recognition or anything on that? Anything different than you would do on a normal year where you're going to come back the next year?
No. The car, I make myself available after the races to anybody who wants to come by. Kids want to get in the car, that's fine. No, we're not going to do anything different that way. It's just we've been pretty good with the fans, and we're going to continue to be the same way.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything more I could really do. We've got hero cards for them. Kids get in the car, like I said, and I'm there for anything they want to come by. I'm there for them.
Right. No, I know. Yeah, that's why I say I know you're one of the ones that do a lot of that stuff, and that you're very popular with the kids that way. And I was just wondering if you do anything different. Not anything different, but maybe more so because it's your last year.
No.
But like I said, you've been pretty good with that all throughout. So.
No. So it's not broke. When it's not broke, Mike, you don't fix it. If it ain't broke, you don't fix it.
There you go. All right. In terms of your racing and down through the season, you think you're going to feel, just your opinion, I guess, now, I mean, I could ask you this after the season, but are you going to feel any different when you strap in for the last time?
Probably. I would say it would be hard not to feel different, when you're going to get in that car for the last time and get out, and that's it. I imagine this is going to be very tough on me. It's going to be tough on me next year when I know that they're running and I won't be there. But, it just, it's time. And, it's just time for a change.
You mentioned your family. Now, I know I've been around you in the pits and so forth, but I'm just curious, does your wife ever come, or your kids? I know you have young kids, but I've seen some of the pictures from Victory Lane and so forth. that your kids were there. Does your wife come down at all?
My wife is usually in the stands every week.
Okay.
And my kids have been. My younger kids, of course, are with my wife, and my older sons come down on occasion. I've been very fortunate to have my family behind me all the way.
Right. So they have been supported by, I would assume, for 37 years. Not that
well, you got to understand too. The racing has taken a toll on my relationships. I am married for 3 times now.
Right.
And racing probably caused 2 of the divorces, but it led to where I am now. And if I had it to do all over again, I would do it the same way.
Right. I would assume that at some point, and obviously you did that with your wife now, the first thing you'd have to ask her is if she was a race fan. I would think,
Well, my wife now is a race fan, and she was she's very much a sports fan in general, but she's a race fan, and she has put up with a lot of my crap over the years, my missing things like you can't plan to do anything during the race season.
Right.
It's like I'm not available. No weddings, no funerals, no things like that. No.
Yeah. That's the one thing, unfortunately, you don't plan on is, people don't. You can't tell people, if you're gonna die, please die, after the race season. There's certain things you can plan like that.
Yeah, I used to kid my mother about that, and I told her not to pass away any time during the race season, but unfortunately she did. But
exactly. Yeah.
That was probably the toughest time for me ever.
Right.
I don't know how we got off on that side, but yeah, that was a toughie.
We were talking about family, and I guess we led into that. But no, as far as you being recognized, you definitely have a legacy with Long Island race fans, and a lot of people, a lot of fans are in your corner, and I certainly wish you well, and I hope to see you during the season again. If hopefully my plan is to get up there, during the season at some point. We'll see what happens, but I'm following the situation, and with the radio show and with the things I write about. So we'll see what happens. But I certainly wish you well, Roger. And you've always been a class guy with me. And I have to say, anybody in the pits has. I'm harsh. I'm a journalist first, I guess you'd say, and I really realize that people, if you have to treat them with respect in order to get them to talk to you. And I've been extremely lucky. I don't think there's anybody in that pit area that won't talk to me because I don't burn them. I don't get into editorializing or whatever. And I just want to tell you that from my perspective, you've always been a class guy with me, and I really appreciate it. And thank you very much. And you deserve
Mike, it goes both. It goes both ways, Mike. You get what you give. And that's just the way it is. I mean, if you treat someone nice, they'll treat you nice back, and that's the way it should be.
Right. But in terms of give anybody at this point a shout that you want to mention your sponsors down through, or your family or anything?
No, I don't want to drag that out for you, Mike. I have good sponsors. Okay, fine. Like you mentioned, I have IGA, I have Sophie's, I have Macbeth's. Dennis Freeze at Oval Speed. Everybody says Dennis Free at Oval Speed. Dennis has been a good friend of mine for a long time. He's more than just a parts guy at the track. He's a close friend. Between him and Richie Gottfried at Macbeth's, if it wasn't for those two gentlemen, I would not be in a race car, no matter how many sponsors I have. Those guys have been more than just guys at the racetrack. If it wasn't for those two gentlemen, none of this would have been possible. They're more than sponsors and always will be. So, anyway, there are other sponsors we have now, but it's not necessary to mention them right now. The rolling billboard will be out there tomorrow night.
Yeah. Okay. Is tomorrow night a regular amount of laps, or is there a special race coming up, or the next or?
We have.
I know that modifieds are running the Jazambeck race and the Jazambeck-Walden race. I was wondering when the next late model multi-lap race is.
We have a 50-lapper coming up in a couple of weeks. I believe. Let's see, we're racing 25 tomorrow night, 25 the week after, and I think the week after that is a 50-lapper.
Yeah, I thought it was within the next month or so.
Yeah, we're racing. We are now racing every weekend in June, which is kind of strange. But for us, the last couple of years we've been hit and miss. But we're racing all this month.
Right. That's another thing with the new owners that I wanted to mention, because you answered that as far as June. The Partridges seem to be wanting everybody out there every week, where, as you mentioned, in the last couple of years, the comedies would sit 1 or 2 divisions a week on a rotating basis, and sometimes it didn't rotate as much as people would like. Because they ended up sitting out,
There was one point, I think it was one point we were for 5 straight weeks. Between one rain out and between we didn't race. It was like going through the whole winter without racing.
Right.
Eddie and Connie are doing a great job, and they're giving us a chance to, the schedule is not etched in stone. I think you'll probably see them add more divisions some nights, not just the late models, but other divisions. And with the new Chief Stewart, Scott, he runs the show very efficiently. Just like opening night, you had 7 divisions, all divisions running heat races, feature events, and so on and so forth, and everything was accomplished in like a little over 3-hour period, and you can't ask for more than that.
Right. Well, I know that opening night, traditionally, they usually had, even the comedies had every division running because it was opening night. But I know down through the season, and that got a couple of people, including yourself at times, although there were times you liked the break, I know, in terms of getting the car fixed up or whatever was happening. The break, but then the breaks sometimes were too many weeks idle, and that's what I was wondering if Eddie and Connie are not doing that as much, or if they're doing it like Figure 8 said just before, Tommy and Rick were saying, but that was more or less because of the rainouts. The first two weeks or so, within 2 weeks. 2 rainouts in 3 weeks, and that was bad in the sense of getting the track started. But I was going to ask you, what does your schedule look like, or the division's schedule look like in terms of sitting out? Are you going to be as idle as you've been in the past as far as the division, or is Eddie letting all divisions win?
Right now, we really don't have. We have 13 shows for the season, if you count the Granite State race coming in. We have We have really only 12 shows scheduled for the late models for our late models. But again, that can change depending on how the racing goes. We can see ourselves getting more. If not, that's no big deal. 12 races is better than none. In the past, we had as little as 9 races. So, plus, again, we do, like you mentioned, we do enjoy having a break every now and then. But in the past, the schedule in the past, before Eddie and Connie took over, we ran a very front-loaded show, which means we ran a lot in May, a little bit in June, hardly at all in July and August, and we'd reappear in September. You brought up the Baldwin Jazambek Evans show this week. In the past, we weren't a part of it. Now we are. In the past, we weren't part of any. We used to be the second show, second division at all the tour shows, and then we were dropped. Then we were dropped altogether. But I believe we have a tour show this year too. So we at least are getting a fair shake this year, which is a very pleasant change.
Right. That's what I meant by not, in a positive way, that Eddie's bringing some of that back. Eddie and Connie are bringing some of that back, where you said in the past the division was part of things, and now they're trying to bring that back a little bit. Again,
nothing against Barbara and Jim, but
no.
But the way that things happen, the scheduling, basically all they did was recopy a schedule year to year. If for some reason we were dropped for a night, then we were dropped forever on that night. We never got it back.
Right.
That's unfortunately what happened. But again, what are you going to do? But now we've got a new shot. We've got a little new blood out there. So we're getting a little bit more of an opportunity, which is nice, and it's a nice way to finish up my career this way. So we'll see. We'll see.
I certainly hope that you do well and finish where you want to finish, and you deserve it.
Put it this way, it won't be due to lack of trying.
Yeah, I know that. You try every year. I know that. Like you say, racers in general don't run for second place. So
no,
that's the way it goes.
Second is the first loser.
There you go. But okay, Raj, you were mentioning to me that you have to set the car up on Friday night, so I want to give you some opportunity to do that, and I want to thank you for coming on. And maybe later in the season, depending on how your season, shakes down, we'll have you on a little later. One last question, though, since you brought up the fact that you run other tracks, will you be running other tracks this year?
The only other we are going to go to Evergreen, the old Mountain Speedway, at least once, and we're planning on going to Waterford in October to run the Granite State race. So we're planning on at least on two trips.
Okay, very good. That October race will obviously be after Riverhead ends because they end in September, correct?
Correct.
Unless there's a change in that too. So okay, that's off season, but so people in the Connecticut area that listen to the show, we're a national show. If you're in the Waterford area, I guess you said it was Waterford.
Right. We're gonna
Connecticut area.
It's like the third week of October.
Okay.
And that will probably be the final race for me. So.
Right, because that's the off season, and so that
the car.
If you want to be a part of, fans come out to Connecticut in Waterford. You can be a part of history. You can be at Roger Oxee's last race. There you go.
And then the car will then be for sale.
There you go. So bring some money along with you if you want to buy a winning car.
Bring a lot of money.
Okay, Raj. Thank you very much for coming on, and good luck this week and the rest of the season.
You take care, Mike, and it's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
We'll see you.
CJ? Okay, thank you. CJ, you want to make any observations here as we wrap this up?
I tell you, it's amazing. Well, when you had the first guest on, I was sitting there and they were talking about different areas claiming to be the first area to have the figure 8 racing. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, God, I can remember going back about 30 years at this point, probably in the mid-'80s, that I can remember being at Kilcare and Shady Bull. There are 2 asphalt tracks, I want to say 3/8, maybe half mile in the Columbus area of Ohio. And I can remember I can remember watching figure 8, especially at Kilcare. I can't remember Shady Bull as much. It's just one of those tracks we didn't go to as often. We just mainly went to the Friday night track. And so I was curious at first, what year he was going to say. So I was sitting there thinking, God, when did this start? But then he started talking about late 70s. So, I got more of an idea, this something had been around 5 or 6 years even before I got. But I was curious when he went to go throw out the date, if our little area of Ohio had actually started that. And so I was curious on that. But it's just really cool to hear these drivers and their life stories and, the years and dedication that they put into the sports. And it's really cool. I'm sitting at the house, doing stuff. And, I got it, I got one of the next books. I got it hooked up to the speaker so you can hear it throughout the whole house. And I'm playing Mr. Mom tonight as I watch the kids on Friday night while the old lady works. And, I take care of getting the laundry and everything situated for the weekend. And so I was just back enjoying listening to both of these, actually all 3 guests, life stories. And it just blows my mind sometimes on where people have come from, how hard they've worked to get where they're at, and just to hear about the things they have accomplished. 64 featured wins, championships from the last guest. Just a lot of different things that I just pick up and listen to. It's just cool to listen to people's life stories sometimes.
Well, I'm glad we were able to educate you a little bit also, CJ, because that's what it's about. If the fans can enjoy it, listen in, and learn something they didn't know before the show started, then we're doing our job.
Yep.
Like you do all week with your show, entertainment, but also if you can learn something along the way, it also helps, or it's an added bonus. And I know that a lot of all 3 guys I know well, obviously being from the island, but I wasn't aware that Roger had 37 years under his belt. That surprised me. I knew he was at it for a long time, but I wouldn't have said 37. And he's been, if he's out on the track, he's running well. I mean, there's been years that he's been in a slump, but as far as preparing the car, all 3 of those guys, or even Rick when he was running, you talk about how long it's been. Now Rick, I know, has driven. I mean, I saw Rick drive when I was like 10 years old, and I'm like 59 this year. So, he's been at it a while. And whether he's been driving or he's been around, like we've said on the shows on the 110 Nation all the time, racing is a family affair, and you never really stop. If you start, it's in your blood until you're, you don't necessarily have to drive, but you're doing other things around the racetrack. And that's what these three guys were. That's what they do. And it's just interesting, like I said, even ourselves, myself included, you, Steve at times. I know Steve didn't know anything about figure eight racing, so hopefully he was listening tonight. And the night we had Tom Rogers on, was on his program, and he just sat there and soaked in all the information. And basically, his question was similar to yours about the intersection, because he wasn't as familiar with that course, and he was asking all kinds of questions and wondering about that. So, saying again that if, you can enjoy the program and also learn something, that's a bonus, and that's why we're here. Okay, as far as next week, I've booked one guest, actually two, for the first hour. I hope to have Dennis Krupski and Jack Hanley from the Blunderbuss 49. And also, I am working on getting a tape segment. I already spoke to CJ about this, possibly next week, having a tape segment with a gentleman who has a museum in his own house. And those of you on Long Island are aware of Marty Himes. He has a very interesting situation within his house. He has a history of water racing on Long Island, and has a few vintage cars, race cars as well, I guess sitting in his driveway. I've never been, or in his backyard, or somehow displayed. Unfortunately, I've never been to his house because it's not wheelchair accessible, and I'm not, I'm in a wheelchair, so I have to be, I guess I could see some of the displays, but not all of everything that's inside the house. But he has a very interesting situation, and I'll try and sit down with him this week. And if he can't do it this week, we'll do it within the next month or so. So that should be interesting, CJ, for the fans and for anybody in the Long Island area to come out and see the Museum of Water Racing on Long Island. So those are the two guests I'm hoping to have. That may change, but I know I've locked in at least one guest for next week. And so, again, my Twitter and my Facebook, you can reach me all week on social media. My Facebook page was my personal page, Hot Lap for Stats again, the fan page, or Twitter at Stats108. And that's the three places you can get me. And also, to give Steve a plug, by all means, this week being Pocono, we're going to have, or Steve's going to have, the threads up for the Xfinity race and and I think they did an ARCA race tonight if it went off. I know they had rain earlier at Pocono, but if the race went off, they had the ARCA thread also. But tomorrow is the Xfinity race, and Sunday the Sprint Cup race at Pocono. So drop by NASCAR and other racing for the threads, and just to post and say hi now and then. And so, as I said, you can find me at my personal page on the Hot Laps for Stats fan page. The 110 Nation is where my show is archived every week, so you can get that every week just go to the page or go to the publicity that has the Bill 110 Nation, I guess, bullet or button on it. Click it, and you could hear that particular show from whatever week you want. Also, well, that's the social media. That's Twitter @108 and the 2 Facebook pages, and plus I'm a member of the NASCAR and other racing page. And CJ, if you want to give them yours before we wrap this up, and let them know about your pages as well. CJ? Okay. All right, that's about it then, and I appreciate you guys listening in. We'll talk to you next week. CJ is probably busy right now. We'll talk to you again next week, and so have a good week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.